Hello and welcome, I'm Jay the Fanboy and you are watching Franchise Frenzy. The movie Batman v Superman recently came out, so that's what I'm going to be talking about today. I have 3 words to describe this movie. Too many explosions. What the heck was going on with all those explosions? I was screaming, stop! Please stop! No more explosions! There were too many! Seriously, did Michael Bay direct this thing? I didn't see his name in the credits! I can only imagine what would have happened if Michael Bay did direct this movie. The entire thing would have been nothing but explosions! Explosion here, explosion there, more so than what we got. Seriously, I don't know if this director has an explosion fetish. There are more explosions here than a Michael Bay movie! And they were all huge, too! Huge! Moving on to the basic question about this movie. Was it good? The short answer is no. The long answer I have, well, I'm gonna have to go a little bit more in depth on that one. After all the press releases, after all the trailers, after everything I knew was going into this movie before I saw it, I was expecting something that was total and absolute garbage. I expected to hate every moment of this. I thought it would be 2.5 hours of complete crap. I thought this movie was going to be the worst thing I had ever seen. I expected to leave the theater in a total blood rage with the desire to murder everyone involved in this project. But that wasn't the case. I left the theater having a very different feeling than what I had expected. There were parts of this movie that I had actually liked. As a matter of fact, I actually thought the movie was fairly decent. It was a horrible mess, but it was still honestly pretty good. The sad thing about this, though, is that if your audience has to lower their expectations to the extreme that I did while watching this movie in order to enjoy it, then you've done something wrong. So which parts of the movie are good and which are bad? Let's start with the bad. The first and most obvious point of bad in this movie is just what I said in my prediction video. I predicted this movie would have too many plots, too many things contained within, and I was right. I counted no fewer than 6 different movies contained within this one. 6 movies! I think only 2 of those were necessary. Seriously. There was a Batman movie in here, a Superman sequel, a Versus movie, a setup for Justice League, some wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey alternate timeline bullcrap, the Doomsday movie. Too many movies in one movie. This movie was 2.5 hours long, and they easily could have cut out 30, maybe 45 minutes of it. Honestly, most of that stuff was not needed. They could have saved it for its own movie, but they had to put it in here. Just pick the 1 or 2 movies you want to see and pretend that you've been watching that for 2 hours. Seriously, when this comes out on DVD, you could easily make a theatrical cut of your own and just watch the portions you want to watch. Doomsday is in this. He got the Spider-Man 3 treatment just like I predicted. I mean, he deserves his own movie and you stick him inside someone else's. He needs his own movie. He does not deserve to be piled on to an already jam-packed pile of garbage and expected to have this be a good movie. The entire Justice League was in this movie. It doesn't really matter. Wonder Woman is the only one that has any bearing or any significance on the plot.
She with you?
I thought she was with you.
The rest of the Justice League was just basically glorified cameos, nothing to do with anything, and were basically just advertisements for future movies. Flash got 2 cameos, both of them were really weird. Aquaman got a cameo. His was incredibly stupid, incredibly lame, and didn't belong there at all. Cyborg had a really good cameo. I hope they use that scene in his movie, otherwise I'm going to be really pissed. It was a very nice scene and it belongs in his movie. Unfortunately, this advertisement didn't tell me that his movie won't be available for me to watch until 2020. Moving on to other pointless scenes, I counted 5 different scenes that were basically nightmares, daydreams, visions, or whatever, something not grounded in reality, something to make you question reality and make you wonder, what the heck is this? Is this meant for another movie? What is this? None of them were any good, and none of them had their place. They could have been cut out entirely, and most of the movie would have remained fine. Now moving on to the good, because there was some. Batman. Batman did a terrific job in this movie. Ben Affleck portrays him perfectly.
The fever, the rage, the feeling of powerlessness that turns good men cruel.
Maybe it's Gotham City in me. We just have a bad history with freaks dressed like clowns.
This is an older, brooding Batman who's been broken down by time and doesn't have time for anything, and he's just dark as crap and won't take anybody's garbage. But Ben Affleck does a wonderful job portraying it. I didn't really care for the dark Batman in the previous Batman trilogy, but here they put it in terms that works. They show why he's dark, and I feel like Ben Affleck did a great job portraying Batman, and his scenes were done really well. Jesse Eisenberg did a great job portraying Lex Luthor. This is the type of villain I like. Someone over-the-top, campy, crazy, and absolutely stupid, and yet I still believe that they are a great, fantastic villain. He hammed it up a lot, and I loved it. He kind of reminded me a little bit of the Joker in this film, but that's okay. I actually enjoyed watching that. If you like an over-the-top villain who is absolutely super fun to watch and steals every scene he's in, this is the Lex Luthor for you.
Boys, Bruce Wayne meets Clark Kent. I love it. I love bringing people together. How are we?
Lex,
You're psychotic.
That is a 3-syllable word for any thought too big for little minds.
As for the plot elements, the build-up to the fight between Batman and Superman was done really well. There are moments when it dragged on for a bit, but keeping in mind the payoff that you get, and that drag is actually worth it, because every scene contributes to the fight, and the fight delivers. There was a car chase, which I viewed as kind of pointless, but as a portion of the build-up, I felt like it was done really well. There is an origin in this, because you can't have a Batman movie without seeing his parents get shot. It does factor into the plot later, it does contribute, and the visuals in it are amazing. There was one moment in that origin which was kind of dumb and should have been cut. It really took me out of the moment. If they had just cut that one moment, it would have been perfect. The scene where Batman is watching as Superman is fighting Zod, that was done really well. I feel like it belongs here and contributes to the plot, and it does a very nice job.
That son of a bitch brought the war to us.
That scene does two things really well. First off, it establishes a reason for Batman to hate Superman, and thus give a reason for them to fight later. And second, I love movies that show me something I've seen before, but from the perspective of another character. That was done really well. Lex Luthor also does a wonderful job of poking and prodding Batman, and getting him motivated to fight Superman. That was also done well. There was also kryptonite in this, because you can't have a Superman movie without kryptonite. There was one moment in the movie of overly dramatic, over-the-top stupid that works really well. Who told you that name? Where did you hear that name? Perfect. Loved it. Who would have thought that such a detail as a character having a shared name would have such an influence on the plot? And it's so over-the-top stupid, so unbelievable, but it works, and I liked it. Then you have the two big fights in the movie, Batman vs. Superman, and Superman vs. Doomsday.
you know you can't win this. It's suicide.
The greatest gladiator match in the history of the world.
Son of Krypton versus Bat of Gotham.
Both fights were spectacular and visually amazing, Both of them were done really well. Both of them deserve their own movie, but for what we got, it was pretty good. For the last act, I was really tired when we finally got to Doomsday. In spite of it coming at the end of an already too long movie, with too many plots in it, the Doomsday fight was done really well, and in spite of me being tired by the time I got there, I really did enjoy it. I think the best part was that the two main comic book plots they were using for this film, when they put them on the screen, they actually stayed true to the source material they were using. That was amazing. I love it when movies do that. This movie as a whole could have been really, really good, except for the fact that they had to jam 6 different movies in here with so much material and have it come out as one big convoluted, overly jam-packed mess. In spite of that, individual parts and pieces were actually really good, and focusing on that actually made it more enjoyable. Till next time, I'm Jay the Fanboy, and this movie had too many explosions. Laters.